しようとしてもできなかったのね。
そういうものか。ルーに子供ができたと分かった時は村中上を下への大騒ぎ。
Several months later, Rue is heavily pregnant, and Machio is increasingly concerned about Rue's body condition. But Rue reassured her beloved husband that she was fine. Machio always asks about Rue's body condition all the time. In fact, there is almost no discussion other than Rue's condition. Rue made sense of it because she understood that Machio was worried about her.
なんとかなるわ。
そっか。
そう。
Then Machio continued his activities as usual with his wives and other girls. There was one interesting thing that Anne and the other maids did. Every morning they always try to wake up earlier than Machio. But unfortunately, they always fail because Machio is too diligent in getting up early. Due to that, Machio decided not to leave the room after he woke up around 4 or 5 in the morning. Then Anne reported that the Red went into the wine cellar last night. The Red drank 1 barrel, but Machio wasn't worried, because 1 small barrel was deliberately unlocked so the Red could drink it. By the way, the maids were also used to cooking like Machio had taught them months or years ago. The dining room in the home of Machio and his wives has limited space, so every time they have breakfast, lunch, or dinner, they always divide it into 3 sessions. First for Machio and his wives, secondly for the maids, and thirdly for the other girls. Sometimes they also rotate these 3 sessions according to needs or situations. By the way, Hakurin is the laziest girl in this village, and most of her activities are always spent sleeping. Meanwhile, the 3 angel race girls who served as village guards also had bad habits. They can't take care of themselves, can't do housework, can't cook, can't wash clothes, etc. Even so, they were strong, unlimited stamina, and were reliable guardian girls.
頑張って村の警護に当たってくれているので十分ありがたいのだが。
きっと火力が足りないんですわ。
すまなかった。頼むから寝てくれ。
村長があんなこと言うからです。
まだ2割ぐらいの出来かな。フローラ？
Then Machio returned to work as usual. Sometimes he was also confused with the plant pests in this world. Many pests that he did not recognize. But thanks to the instructions always given by Zabathan's family, Machio can deal with these pests correctly. The fields that Machio has are also getting bigger. Machio, his wives, and the other girls were troubled because Teju village's fields were too large. After finishing work, they rest and have lunch together under the tree. Actually, the residents are confused by Machio's nature, which always allows lunch. Some girls are not used to having lunch because they think breakfast is enough. Some of the girls were even worried if we had lunch, would the food supply in the warehouse be sufficient for our daily needs? But Machio calmed them down and said that lunch was also needed to replenish their stamina so they could work optimally. Then several races report to Machio about the village situation, trade, etc. After that, Machio made a flower garden to make the village look more beautiful. Machio also made items according to the requests of the girls, his wives, and the children of the Howling village. These past few months, the villagers have also been training to strengthen themselves and gain experience in how to fight. Even though Machio didn't suggest this, the maids still suggested the practice. They were very excited to get the villagers to do it together. Well, the maids are excited because they just want to keep the weight off. If they were too fat from always eating well here, they wouldn't be able to wear cute maid outfits anymore. After all, this practice is also useful for their health and sexiness. Machio also sometimes joins them in training. However, he lacked the skills to use ordinary weapons. But when he used the golden spear from the all-purpose farming tool, the result was like this.
これはこれで使いどころに困る。
Then they had dinner together as usual. Even though the maids were used to cooking, they were still not used to creating new menus. So sometimes it tastes delicious, less salty, less sweet, even absurd. Then Machio received reports from several girls, including Frau. She gave a letter from Yuri to Machio. The letter contained a request to eat apples in Teju village, and she also wanted another dress made by Zabathan. Yuri really liked the dress made by Zabathan. Then Machio allowed it, and he was sure Zabathan would be happy that Yuri asked something like this.
まあ、座布団なら喜んで作ってくれると思うけど、数もぐっと増えるので、ここでもいろいろな報告を受けることになる。
After dinner, Machio took a shower in the men's bath. He was very relieved not to bathe with his wives and other girls. It was a dangerous thing for Machio every night.
極楽極楽。風呂上がりはまったりタイム。
Even Machio also felt very tense every night because he always felt the gazes of girls secretly hiding somewhere. Because of that, Machio often deceives them in any way, so they don't do weird things with Machio in bed. Their lust is too high. I'm sure you know what I mean when discussing bedtime activities with women.
あと、謎の隠し扉は塞いでもらおう。
The dwarves were also working diligently to make all kinds of wine. Then they also asked Machio to give them more wine ingredients again. The residents of Teju village are very fond of wine and must provide as much wine as possible. When Machio went to the vineyards to expand the field, Sena suddenly came and reported that a strange person had come to Teju village.
変な人だ。
It turns out that Rue knows this strange man. He is Valgrave, the first vampire race over 4,000 years old. He bowed in front of the god statue because he deeply recognized that God could also be called the god of creator. Valgrave is also commonly known as the vampire progenitor and the ancestor of all vampires. Valgrave has lived in this world for a very long time, so he used memory erasing magic to lighten the burden of life. But Valgrave would not use that magic to erase the memory of his family, the gods, and other important people. By the way, Rue and Flora are Valgrave's granddaughters. Valgrave came there because he got the news that Rue was heavily pregnant. This pregnancy is a very rare thing among the vampire race. The vampire race usually creates offspring from a blood contract, so Valgrave hoped that Rue could keep the child and give birth safely. Then Valgrave said that he really admired the statue of the god there. It was the best masterpiece Valgrave had ever seen. He really respected the gods, so he wanted the statue of the god. Then Machio immediately made another god statue for Valgrave.
気に入ったみたいね。そうですね。
いや、嬉しいな。ありがとう。
Valgrave was very happy because he could have this precious statue. Initially, he wanted to pay for Machio's services, but Machio refused because he didn't want to profit from making this statue of a god. Then Valgrave promised to give a reward to Machio next time. Valgrave was grateful that Rue and Flora could live in this comfortable village. Then Valgrave said goodbye to them and returned to the vampire race region.
彼女のことよろしく頼むよ。
はい。
村長、いろいろとありがとう。このゾウもルーのことも元気な子を産むんだよ。
はい。
フローラも元気でな。
はい。
じゃあ、俺は別のものを考えておくとしよ
う。最初は驚いたけど、気さくな人だったな。
そうね。
Then Valgrave arrived at a church and greeted the priest there. Valgrave wanted this statue of a god to be put in a proper place. Even Valgrave also ordered the priest to put away the statue of the previous god and replace it with this new statue. Valgrave was the landlord there, so the priest immediately carried out his orders.
ああ、それでもだ。おほ。見てのお楽しみだ。一番いい場所を開けてくれ。
After the god statue had been placed perfectly, they were amazed because this god statue looked dashing. The priest guessed that the person who made this statue must be famous and talented. Then Valgrave said that the person who made this statue was an ordinary human, so they must repay this kindness by offering a prayer for the peace of Machio and the villagers of Teju.
敬意を払うようにと。
大丈夫ですか?
A few days later, Valgrave gave Machio a piano as his thanks. This piano is also to celebrate Rue's pregnancy. Then Machio and the others decided to put the piano in the inn's living room. The stupid girls didn't expect that there was a piano from the church placed in this place. The piano is usually seen and used when there are big rituals. The stupid girls want to play the piano immediately, but they didn't dare because if that special piano broke, they couldn't replace it.
私も後でいいから。だったら今のうちに弾かせてもらえば一生自慢できるってことじゃない?
A few minutes later.
壊したりしたらそれこそ一生終わりだわ。
I think I'm not going to call them stupid anymore. That title is only used by Frau and the people around them, so I'll just call them smart girls. The smart girls approached Machio because they wanted another piano. They pleaded tearfully to Machio to find a regular piano. Even if it's an old piano, it's no problem.
あのピアノじゃダメなのか?
ダメなんです。お願いします。ボロボロのでも構いませんから。
Because of that, Machio ordered a regular piano from Michael. After the regular piano arrived in Teju village, it was placed beside the special piano from Valgrave. Then the smart girls are very happy to play the regular piano every day. Even the other girls were curious about the piano. Then Frau and Lasti taught them to play the piano because only nobles or kingdom families could do it.
高価なものをもらってしまって申し訳なかったかな。
A few hours later.
めてほしいな。